when it comes to the issue of exorcism, I think there are two equally problematic approaches. One of those approaches is to see the example of Jesus and the apostles who have a direct spiritual insight into where there's demonic activity and a direct authority to rebuke that demonic activity and to seek to replicate that. And so what happens is people will then encounter someone who may not have any demonic involvement at all, but who is suffering from mental illness or suffering from any other kind of malady, and to seek to exorcise that, or to devise elaborate exorcism rituals that are work in and of themselves. I don't think that's biblical. But on the other side, and equally as problematic, are those who, even very conservative Christians, who just dismiss the very idea of demonic possession or demonic oppression, when we live in a demon-haunted universe, and the Scripture teaches us there are people who are possessed by demonic beings, and there are people who are being persecuted by demonic beings. I think the way we have to approach that is with a sense of humility, in that we don't have the direct insight that Jesus does as to when demons are involved, but to be willing to speak boldly to someone with the gospel. And I mean, I think that is the ultimate exorcism, is the gospel of Jesus Christ. So when someone seems to be under some type of demonic influence, I think praying for the restraint of that demonic influence, praying for the authority of Jesus to remove it if it's present, and then to speak to the person with the gospel. So in any kind of a situation, you always have someone maybe under 1,000 layers who's still there. And the power of the gospel, Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, can break through the power of darkness. And so I would say go forward with the gospel and wrestle as best you can against those principalities and powers in the dark places. And I do think that Christians are going to be encountering more explicit demonic presence in the years to come. Simply because I think the demonic powers are very sophisticated. They're watchers of human nature. And so in a culture that is afraid of invisible spirits, the demonic beings are going to use that fear in order to exercise power over people. And in a culture in which there is a very technological, sanitized, rationalistic understanding of the universe, mechanistic explanation for the universe, the demonic powers are going to be very quiet because they don't want to be noticed. Because in that kind of a culture, if someone sees the reality of the supernatural, that then will lead to a questioning that could ultimately lead to Jesus Christ. I think we're moving out of the hyper-rationalist world that we're accustomed to, and it's tipping over into a more occultic future for us. And so I think that in the future, we're going to see more people in the first world experiencing exactly what third world peoples are experiencing right now, which is a heightened sense of spirituality. That doesn't necessarily mean Christianity. Often it's going to mean a resurgent paganism. So when you have that resurgent paganism, and you can see it right now in popular culture, in a variety of ways, in the way that the occult is being used or at least appreciated, where that is the case, the demonic powers tend to make themselves more visibly known. And so I think we should be prepared for that.